Hey, I'm RC and this is the episode 27 about creating an HTML5 video game. If you haven't watched the last episode, then I would highly recommend you to click the link in the description to go check it out. In this video, I will be covering game resizing, and what I mean by that is making sure that the size of the game matches the size of the window of the player. Right now it's not really ideal because the game is always 500 by 500, so if I have a large screen or a tiny screen, the game does not adapt and it's not really good. In Resizing Game, so the MMORPG I'm currently working on, the link will be in the description. So if you change the size, the game automatically adjusts, so the game always takes the full size of the screen, which is really good. So this is what I will be covering in this video. So there are two main ways in order to increase the size of the game. The first one is to keep the size of the pixels the same, but increase the number of pixels shown. And the second way is to keep the number of pixels the same, but increase the size of the pixel. So it's probably not really clear, so I will actually start coding the first one and I'm sure you'll understand. So the first thing I'm going to do is a little correction. So right now the ID of the canvas is CTX, which is kind of confusing. So I'm going to rename it to canvas. So the ID of the canvas is canvas and the context is CTX, which makes a lot more sense. So let's do that. So what we want to do is that when the player changes the size of its window, we want to automatically alter the size of the canvas. So how we are going to do that is that we will be listening to an event. So whenever there's a resize in the screen, this function over here will be called. So add event listener resize. And when this happens, we will call a new function that will be called resize canvas. That we will call. So in that function, what we will want to do is pretty straightforward. We will say, hey, the width of the game will become equal to the width of the window. To get the width of the window, we need to use inner width, so like that, and we will say, hey, the height is also equal to this. So if you remember correctly, all the logic in the code uses the width and the height. So by changing those, it will automatically adjust everything else. The only thing that's not adjusted automatically will be the size of the canvas. So I'm going to create another variable over here called canvas over there and rename this here. And when I'm there, this is no longer needed. We can simply put canvas. So when there's a change, we will also set the width of the canvas equal to width and the height of the canvas equal to height. And so if we go to our game, refresh the page, and then resize the size of the game, we will see that it takes the full screen. So it's working, kind of. There are a few glitches that I will be fixing. The first one is the score is now super tiny. And the reason why it's tiny is because whenever you alter the canvas, all the settings related with it are gone. So all the settings of the context needs to be reapplied when there's a change. Another problem, if you remember correctly, is that when I first log into the game, we don't call the resize canvas because no resizing has been done. So we will manually call resize here when we start the game. So next, another little problem we have is that there's scrolling bars. And this is a very tricky topic. So first of all, if you remember correctly, there's a little gap between the corner of the screen of the canvas and the corner of the window. And this is kind of problematic. And there's also, I don't really understand why this happens exactly. But in order to fix it, I know how to fix it. That's the important part. We need to add a body. Normally there's always a body in the game. And by default, its margin is 4. Normally, you don't really need to precise it because you just use the default. But in our case, we don't want that little gap over here. So we'll manually say, hey, the margin. This is called the margin or the padding. But in that case, it's the margin. It's a little bit weird anyway. We just want to put body style margin 0. And by doing this, we will no longer have the tiny gap. But there are still the scroll bar. And in order to remove the scroll bar, what we want to do is that in the height over here, we will add a -4. I'm not sure why, but it's supposed to work. And that too. There we go. -4, -4, and now the game works. And if you resize it, it will automatically work. So it's pretty neat. So I guess we are pretty much done with the first technique, which was to keep the size of the pixel the same, but increase the number of pixels drawn. So even though this is by far the easiest one to code, there's a major problem with it, and it's that players with smaller screen will be at a disadvantage. So for example, I have a small screen. I cannot even see that there's a rock to the left of me and a rock to the right of me. While a player with a larger screen will be able to see those rocks, so we'll have an advantage. So in the next video, I'll be covering the second approach, which is to keep the number of pixels the same, but enlarge the pixels. This is the equivalent of zooming. So even though my window size is larger than before, I'm still seeing the same data on the screen. The pixels are simply drawn bigger. So I guess that will be pretty much it about this video. I hope you liked it, and see ya!